It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Thanks for riding with us this morning. You are joining us halfway through our program. We broadcast Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Central till about 9:45 Central, 9:45 a.m. The program is available on our podcasted Spreaker application, which, by the way, you can download to your cell phone. You can get that program by going on to your either iPhone or Android, the app server, and you can download an application for Spreaker. It's like speaker, but with an R, S-P-R-E-A-K-E-R. When you get that application downloaded, you can simply search for America's Voice Now, Michael Evans, and then you will be able to find every episode that we do, and you can listen to them at your leisure. We also have a listen line for those folks that want to listen to the program but don't have internet access or high-speed internet, or can't listen to it because of timing. We have a listen line provided for us by a company called Audio Now, and they provide it for us free of charge, so I got to love that, and you do too. It costs you nothing to use it, and it costs us nothing to have it. They're paid by the carriers. And so you can call this listen line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can listen to the program at your leisure. And so as of about 10 a.m. this morning, you'll be able to listen to this morning's program lickety-split. You just dial the number. If you're out driving around and you're working, or if you're out, and you're out and about doing your job, and you got a cell phone with you or what have you, or even on your home phone, you can just dial the number, and then you'll be able to listen to the entire 100-minute program at your leisure and convenience. The phone number for that is 415-325-0725. If you have a radio program of your own and you'd like Audio Now to provide you with this service, you can go to audionow.com. I think it's .com. It's either .com or .org, and they'll provide you with the same service. So I'm very, very grateful to them. The phone number, again, for a listen line it's radio by phone. That's their slogan. Radio by telephone. How cool is that? 415-325-0725. All right, so we have two different topics we're going to talk about here this morning. One is Elijah Cummings, and he's the Democratic House representative who sits on the committee that is investigating the IRS, along with Darrell Issa. The second one we're going to talk about is Senator Sessions, who's come out and made it probably the most blunt and forthright and honest statement I've heard out of anybody in Congress in years. The President of the United States of America, quote, is on a deliberate plan by the President to collapse the U.S. law enforcement system with regard to immigration. Boom. How long have we been waiting to hear that kind of straight talk, folks? Let's talk about Elijah Cummings first. I touched on him the other day. He sits on the committee to investigate the IRS. But it turns out, and all along, by the way, he's been providing cover for them by saying, this investigation is over, it needs to be closed, it's finished, it's a dead end, there's nothing to see here, move along. This is, this is a figment and a fantasy of these Republicans who are just desperate to get at the president. That's what he's been saying. He's been apologetic on the record, apologizing to these people for being brought to testify, constantly throwing comments out there during these hearings, and giving cover, essentially. Well, now it turns out, now we see why. He wanted the investigation stopped. You know why? Because it turns out he's been in collusion with the IRS for exactly what they're being investigated for. This is the equivalent, ladies and gentlemen, of finding out that the judge who's about to hear a case has been in business with the defendant and forgot to tell everybody conveniently and willfully misheld or withheld the information. That's essentially what this is. Here's the deal. Cummings has denied on tape that he has ever had any kind of contact at all with the IRS that was, out of context with the normal request for information. But that's not true, which means that we've got a sitting representative in the House who lied to Congress and his fellow committee members. He lied to them. That means he didn't just lie to them, he lied to us, which means he needs to be removed from his seat and labeled dishonorably discharged. What does that mean? That means he needs to be removed from office and barred from ever running for office again. He needs to be given the scarlet letters of DD, dishonorably discharged. There is no question that he sought to hide his involvement with the IRS on this issue. And furthermore, that he sought to close the investigation down before his involvement could be exposed. Folks, that is insane. If that happened in a courtroom, if the prosecutor was found to be in collusion with the guy who is being tried for the crime, and everybody's in the courtroom sitting there and wondering, why is the prosecutor not asking the right questions? Why is the prosecutor not exposing the evidence that he has? And then suddenly it comes to light. We get it. The prosecutor and the defendant are related to each other, or they're best friends for life, or they're in business together. Or worse yet, the prosecutor was assisting him in robbing the bank. He gave him the plans. Is this any way to run a nation? There is no question that he sought to hide his involvement, and furthermore, that he sought to close the investigation before his involvement could be revealed to the public or to his other committee members even. I mean, this isn't like Darrelisa and the other people, the other 5 members up on the committee knew. They didn't. In fact, they asked him and he said no. That cannot stand, ladies and gentlemen. If we have any expectation, and if this government has any expectation that we are going to grant them a level of credibility, then the citizenry has to have some level of faith in their activities and in their stance and in their position and their role in their watchdog capability. If that's not the case, then they don't expect to lead, they expect to rule us. Now, whether you agree with that and that they lead or rule, that's entirely up to you. I'm telling you that their goal has always been to rule. They don't really want to lead you. They don't care about you. And there's more than enough of them if you disappear off the face of the earth that they don't really need you. You have to look at these people the way in which they look at you. When their mask comes off and their fancy suit comes off and their media attention comes off, they are nothing more than the dukes and the lords and the ladies of old. You're a peasant. You are necessary, but only to the extent that you produce something for them. And that from time to time, they allow 1 or 2 individuals to come before them and beg for and plead for some mercy or some small crumb off the table. And, they grant it. Or don't. The problem is that they don't lead us. They rule us. And since that is the case, they must all be removed. And they have to be replaced with the full knowledge of the replacement people who come in, that any actions that they would commit that would be similar to the toilet we just flushed will be met with a claim that it's an act of treason, or an act at very, very least that will permanently bar them and immediate removal. We're not talking here about, some long-winded, censure and all of that nonsense. It will result in prison terms at best and a death sentence for treason at the worst. You want accountability in government? You want people who actually serve you, not the other way around? Then those people have to be held accountable. And the only way to hold them accountable is to put them up there and say, not only are you now on a pedestal, and you're above the rest of us, but the responsibility that we've given you to carry around greatly increases your risk. When you violate that responsibility and the duty and the oath and the obligation that you've sworn to, then we're going to hold you more accountable than we would anyone else. If we're not willing to go there, then ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, we're not really willing to take this nation back. We're not willing to have this go back to any semblance of true republicanism and true representative government. And I don't mean republicanism as in the party name. I mean a true guaranteed Republican style of government, one that is a representative democracy. Government's sole function is to protect and defend the indefensible, the citizenry itself. When government has become when government has become the predator and we are the prey, hey, we got nothing further to talk about. It's that simple. Elijah Cummings is a predator. He's a predator. He doesn't look like a predator. He doesn't look like a cat laying there waiting for the mouse to come by. He doesn't look like, what you would envision a predator to look like. But he is a predator nonetheless. In fact, he's even more effective and he's all the more dangerous because he has the ability to chameleon-like adapt to his environment and change. There is no doubt in my mind that Elijah Cummings owes America an explanation for his conflict of interest and for lying to his own committee. And there is no doubt in my mind that immediately thereafter he needs to be removed and labeled permanently as dishonorably discharged. All right, let's get on to Senator Sessions. He came out yesterday and he said, wisely, that the president is on a deliberate plan to collapse U.S. law enforcement system on immigration, where it relates to immigration. Now, what's really interesting about this, and there's a video that's associated to it, so please jump on americasvoicenow.org or facebook.com/americasvoicenow, America's Voice Now, so that you can actually hear. It's a 5-minute video, and it'll blow your mind. Here's what he says, in part. Our law enforcement system is in a state of collapse, and it's a deliberate plan by the President of the United States, and it's wrong. And people need to be aware of it and need to stand up to it, and I believe the American people are beginning to do so. He rebukes Eric Holder and Joe Biden as part of the problem with their pro-amnesty efforts. He goes on to say, so you come into the country illegally, and the Attorney General of the United States declares that these individuals have a civil right to amnesty. How can this possibly be? The chief law enforcement officer in America. Then on Vice President Biden, he goes on to say, Vice President Biden recently said, and I quote, 11 million people live in the shadows. I believe they're already American citizens. End quote. 11 million undocumented aliens are already Americans? Goodness, the Vice President of the United States would make such a statement. It's stunning beyond belief. Let me tell you what the immigration plan is that I have been discussing for years. And it's interesting because it looks like I heard O'Reilly throw his plan out the other day, which he's got up on BillO'Reilly.com. And it's very, very closely paralleling and allied to the plan that I've been talking about for years. Now, I'm not going to be presumptuous enough to say he stole my idea, but because I've heard others kind of throw ideas similar to it around as well. But the fact of the matter is that, and his actually doesn't go quite as far, but the fact of the matter is that if we want to resolve immigration in this country, we have to put in a plan that's similar, that looks similar to this. No immigration changes of any way, shape, or form or kind until the borders are independently and verifiably sealed. What does that mean? That means that they must be sealed tighter than a gnat's butt. And what that means is a double-sided fence with a no man's land in between, just like you have in separating North and South Korea, just like you had separating East and West Germany. That's how borders are built, folks. You can say, well, that's insane. Why would we want to? What kind of a gulag? No, it's not a gulag. We're trying to keep people out that don't belong here. This is not an issue of morality. And if it was, then we wouldn't have a border at all. But they can't quite go there because they know that the public will never accept it. That is the goal ultimately. Because, look, their goal is not, international borders. Their goal is a unified global government run by a very, very small elite oligarchy. No immigration changes until the borders are independently proven to be verifiably sealed. When I say independently, I mean we can't have Border Patrol tell us it's sealed because we can't trust DHS, who runs Border Patrol. What we need is a national immigration ombudsman, somebody who has 100% full access to everything Border Patrol has, but does not owe any allegiance to the federal government and owes all of its allegiance to we the people. He and she and that committee or group can sit there and say, yes, we believe the border is verifiably sealed. Second, we then offer a 1-year period of registration for all illegals that are already here within the borders. 1 year. Those who don't register immediately upon their discovery are deported and never allowed to reapply, ever. You get one crack at this. You get one shot at amnesty. And after that, you're done. We don't owe you anything. We don't owe you anything to begin with. We're graciously allowing you to step up and say, I am here illegally, and I intend to apply and come into the country and do it right. If they have a criminal history, immediate deportation with no hope of return. If they have been here before and they've been deported before, you're out. You're done. Those who register are then put at the very, very end of the line, and they must go back home until their number comes up, just like everyone else. Oh my goodness, that's the end of the program right there. You just went too far. No, I didn't. The truth of the matter is, you're not willing to go far enough. If you're found crossing the border after the sealing is accomplished, you are summarily deported with a publicly visible tattoo and a guaranteed DNA, fingerprint, facial recognition identification. If you cross again, you will be imprisoned on the border at hard labor for 10 years, and then you will be deported again. If you cross a third time, you will be removed from the equation. You expand temporary work visas, but you have tracking and you have monitoring. You can provide work visas where people come over the border or come in for the summer or the harvest seasons. You can allow people to come here and work here temporarily on visas from foreign nations that aren't sharing a border with us. I'm okay with that. In fact, we have to expand the citizenship limitations dramatically with caveats. But Here's the deal. If you want to come here, you have to live by the rules under our roof. You say that to your children, but why won't you say it to a group of illegal aliens? If you're going to live in this house, you're going to live under the rules of my roof. But when it comes to illegal aliens, you're like, well, there really are no rules. You can come in and go as you please. We can expand citizenship limits dramatically. In other words, allow far more of them in. There's the limitation that we've imposed has been imposed by us. To what end? I mean, if we impose a limit here, but the borders are wide open over there, what's the point? The only difference is, if we're going to allow you to come in here and apply for citizenship, and we're going to greatly expand that number, you have to have a job and an education. You have to bring assets with you, and you have to be 100% self-sufficient. You pay your own way. You contribute to the tax base. No free rides for anyone. And by the way, that includes our own hapless. Our own hapless, these are the folks, these are not the helpless folks. These are the lazy, the hapless, the shiftless, the bored, and the willfully stupid. Let me tell you why this matters. Because this is a policy that is far more generous and far more compassionate than virtually every other nation on the planet. It's more generous and compassionate than the countries they're coming from. And you can't have it both ways. This immigration problem is the fault of the United States government. They've allowed this to go unchecked for so long that at this stage in the game, we need a dramatic correction. Dramatic. That's right. Dramatic means a fence here, a big swath of 300 yards, and another fence there. That's going to be very expensive. It won't even touch the cost of maintaining all of the aliens that are already here. So stop with the nonsense. Stop with the mamby-pamby, utopian fantasy garbage. The truth of the matter is, we expend annually far more than it would ever cost to build a group of fences. And I don't want to hear the argument, you build a high fence and I'll build a higher ladder. We've been hearing that for decades now. The truth of the matter is, it's not a higher fence. It's a fence that actually has meaning and substance. You have less than a 1% chance of being ejected and deported from this nation if you're already here. The Obama administration has been lying to us all along about how many people they're deporting. It's not anywhere close to their numbers. All the people that they're deporting are caught coming over the border, but they're not deporting anybody that's already here. And half the time, they're not even deporting them as they catch them. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. We have one more topic we're going to hammer on this morning, and then we are wrapped up for the weekend. Our last topic will be a brand new assault by Eric Holder, the White House, on ammo, which is a brand new ammo which has come out and been banned by the ATF, a national gun registry in defiance of Congress, and their plan to disarm you. We'll be right back.